everybody, this is T with Kate's Crafty Closet with another crafty rewind. Basically what a crafty rewind is, I'm taking cards that I've made in the past and I'm redoing them. Some of them I may kind of keep the same, following the same. It's going to follow the same concept as far as what, you know, it looks like, but I'm going to see what would I do differently had I known back then what I know now. So this is the card that we're going to do today. This is a card that I probably did either on Periscope or Facebook Live. So if you're like live formats, make sure you check out me on Periscope as well as in my Facebook group. And soon I will be doing some YouTube lives as well too. So let's go ahead and get ourselves started. This is really fun, really simple, really easy card to make. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to go ahead and do is, this is a piece of 110-pound Neenah Solar White cardstock classic crest, and then it's an A2 size card, which means it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So we're going to put that to the side because we're going to need that later. Then I went ahead and used, this is some distress watercolor paper from Tim and Ranger, and this is the mod rectangle die from MFT, the largest one in the set, and I die cut that out. I will do the best that I can to link everything that I used today in the description box below. Next thing I went ahead and did, this is the MFT A2 rectangles, the largest one in the STAX, and I use this paper pad from Lawn Fawn that I've been having in my stash for quite some time. You can use any kind that you want, totally completely up to you, but today I'm using the spring one and I'm using that blue piece right there. So, and then next thing we're going to do is we're going to bring back in that watercolor piece because we're going to do a little bit of watercolor and stuff like that. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm using the smoother side because the textured side is hard to stamp on sometimes. So today I'm going to use this. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use my favorite technique, embossing with water. Love it. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just take some water and I'm going to just flick it with my fingers on here, because if I use a spray bottle, I'm going to get a little bit more than I want to, so I want a little bit more control. So I'm going to bring in my copy paper and I'm going to bring in my embossing powder. This is Ink on 3 Arctic White. And I'm going to, because this is watercolor paper, that those water droplets will sit on top for a little bit longer than it would be normal watercolor paper. So you can see how we have it all nice and good. I'm just going to run it down a little bit more, make sure I have embossing powder on all of the water droplets. Like I said, if you want to use a water bottle, you most certainly can. I just chose not to, so I have a little bit more control over my embossing powder and fun stuff like that. So of course I'll lose the lid. There it is. We found it. It's quick and simple, easy, right? So bring back in our panel and bring in our heat tool and warm it up and go ahead and heat set that. This is also going to act as a resist. I didn't do this on the first card, so I wanted to do something a little bit different. Right now this is nice and hot. We're going to melt our embossing powder. Takes a moment, but you can see it when it melts. It becomes that glossy look. And you can see where it's all at on here, especially in the light. And if you want to, you can use like a holographic glitter, not glitter, excuse me, embossing powder that I used the other day in the video from Ranger. You have a glitter embossing powder that would work too to give it a little bit of sparkle. But I just went ahead and decided to go with white today. I'm just making sure that I have all my embossing powder melted on here. I know I missed a couple spots and I can see those. Alright, so we're good to go. Give that a second to cool down. And today we're going to use some Brea Reese watercolor inks. These I picked up from Hobby Lobby, or you can get these online. This is Lake Blue, and this one is Ultramarine Blue. So All right, so I'm going to come in with a brush. This is a number 4 brush that from Art Impressions. And so we're going to use that today. And I'm going to use my spray bottle now and wet the area where I want to do my watercolor. So this is kind of where I want my watercolor to go. And I'm spraying a good amount on it because we're going to drop the color into the water and it's going to spread. And then we can go in afterwards, and if we want to move it, we can spread it and have a little bit more control. But this just kind of gives it a little bit of more of an organic look. Like, I'm not going to put over concentration of it, but it's okay. See how it just kind of spreads? Then you can dab a little bit if you want. Okay. Like I said, this is the lighter color. If you want to just stick with this lighter color, you can. And the water on here just allows it to also give it a little bit of more different tones to it. So, okay. Now I'm going to go in and grab some of that darker blue, which is the ultramarine. That first one was the Lady Lake, or Lady Blue. Well, Lake Blue. I don't know where I'm coming up with that. There is a place in Florida called Lady Lake. All right, so this is the darker color. And then I can just move it and I can mix it in there and see how those water droplets from the embossing powder acting as a resist. The watercolor will not go on it. And then just kind of play around with this until you're satisfied with the way that it looks. Like, you can add more color. You can take away some color by grabbing a paper towel and soaking it up. And I'm going to add a little bit more down here so our little deer that we put on it covers it. And I bring out a little bit more over here because they got a little bit more of those embossing powder areas. You just kind of have fun with it. There's really no wrong way, especially when it comes down to watercolor, because it is so forgiving. Okay. Then I'm going to grab this heat tool and we're going to kind of dry that back so you don't have to wait for it. You can let it dry naturally if you want, completely up to you. And it's going to move a little bit and I'm okay with that. Sometimes you can move it to where you want it to go with the heat tool. And I'm just going to make sure it's completely dry so we can stamp our sentiment and lay down our deer as well. I just try to concentrate on one little area, get it dry, so then I can use this heat tool to spread the color and then it'll dry back. One of my favorite things to do is create backgrounds with watercolor. A lot of fun for me, like relaxing. And if you have some that runs off like that, it's okay. Because you can tilt the paper up and move it where you want it to go. Or like I said, you can use a paper towel and lift that up. Okay. So I'm going to kind of tilt it up, let it come back into the image in the center, and then see it goes all over the place, but that's okay. And it's okay if I go off the page. Okay. So I'm just going to give it one more. Run through, make it dry, go in the back in case you have anything that's kind of underneath it. So, all right, so pretty much done with that aspect of the card. I'm going to grab and wipe this up so we don't make a complete mess. Okay, All right, so we can bring this back in, and we're going to bring in the stamp set from My Favorite Things. This one is called Bitty Holiday Wishes, and I'm going to use the seasoned greetings. And I already went ahead and kind of put it into the Stamparatus here, and I'm going to go ahead and butt it up at the top, use the magnet. All right, and then I'm going to use my ink on 3 blackout ink, fine detail ink, and then I'm going to grab one of these little sponge daubers, and I'm going to ink up my sentiment. And because I'm using a stamping positioner, I know I can go ahead and re-stamp this if I don't get good coverage. Because it's watercolor paper, it's going to have a little bit of tooth to it. All right. So these are sentiment strips. They're tiny. Like, don't super push hard because you can spread that out. And see, I know that I need to put more on it. I may have to even do it a 3rd time. So the pins. Okay. So we'll do this again. Like, I don't press it super hard so I don't squish those letters. Okay. And then we're going to go one more time. Okay, I'm going to put that down, and then we will get one S right there, like it needed a little special attention. So I think the seasons may need a little bit more of push. Okay, I'm good with that. I'm good with that sentiment. All right, put the cover back on my ink so I don't accidentally drop my finger into it. All right, so I'm not going to put those little 3D things on it either, but I am going to go ahead and use, this is going to be like a little background, just so it's going to show out just in the corners, and I'm okay with that. Like, it's subtle, and that's what I'm looking for, subtlety, when it comes down to that. So we're just going to go in with some liquid glue, and because this is watercolor paper, it has a little bit of tooth to it, so it may take a moment or two to grab. Okay, and that's okay. But it also, the liquid glue also gives us a moment to place it on here and make sure we are happy with it. So now I'm just going to push it all down, give it a second to grab. Okay. And this was the Winter Wonderland deer, the largest deer from the Tim Holtz and Sizzix die. And I went ahead and put some double-sided adhesive on the back from Elizabeth Crafts and die cut it out of some white glitter paper from Cricut. So I already have that deer ready, and I peeled off the release paper, and I'm going to go ahead and place my deer onto this little thing. And if it goes over the top a little bit, it's okay. I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with the fact that my plaid paper is a little bit, I can trim that after. Actually, let's just go ahead and trim that off because, perfect. If I would have caught that when it was still wet, it'd have been okay. And then we have a little bit at this end that I will just trim off. Perfect. And then I just made a little bit of a mess with my liquid watercolor, but that's okay. So we're going to bring in our card panel. And then we're going to use, I was going to use some double-sided tape to hold that down, but we're just going to go ahead and use that liquid adhesive again. And put it onto this, and then we'll put it onto our card panel. I'm not going to use foam squares this time around. Usually I do that. You can put a sentiment on the inside if you want, stamp something, but today we're just going to do it just like this. And see, our little antlers may be hanging off the card, but it's not hanging off the complete card 100%. And we can just, there we go. That completes our card for today. My crafty rewind. So I want to thank you for joining me today. And make sure, if you like this video, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. And also make sure you hit that notification bell so you get notified each and every time I upload a video to YouTube. So here is a comparison. Let's say you have a little bit of difference in some of the products that I used and all that, but overall same thing and totally love it. So everybody have a crafty day, y'all.